Welcome, everybody. I'm Brian Tausiglux from Untours, and I'm
Mute
here
and stop.
today with
Mute.
James Waggett, who is he owns the Barge, the Savoir Vivre
Good
Barge
loader.
in Burgundy.
Right here.
Oh, and by the way, if you wouldn't mind muting yourselves as you come in, that would be great. You should be muted as you come in, but if you happen not to be, just hit that little mute button in the lower left, and that way we can all hear the presentation. So James Waggett will be telling us a little bit about his barge in Burgundy. And Dodge
Oh,
Amaral is here as well. He's our France director at Untours, and he just did a barge trip this past summer and has some things to say as well. He's the guy that who coordinates those bookings and those reservations on our end. So welcome everybody. With that, I'm going to pass it along to James to start.
Oh, great. Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. My name's James Waggett. I'm coming to you from York in the UK right now. So it's currently, I think my clock makes it look like it's 7 p.m., but it's actually 5 p.m. on this side. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for setting up Brian and Dodge. It's absolutely wonderful to be back again. What I'd like to do with your permission is just to run through, I'll go from the very beginning, just in case anybody's unfamiliar with this thing called barge cruising. And I'll just talk a little bit about where we are in terms of where the Savoir Vivre operates, what happens on these inland waterways, this thing called luxury barge cruising, and specifically what we've created with the Savoir Vivre, which is an interpretation of barge cruising, which is why specifically we work with Untours so well, because unlike a conventional tour operator, Untours has their way, they have their path in tourism and travel, and I believe the Savoir Vivre has its own way within our industry. So it's one of these ones where we have a nice meeting of philosophies, which is why it's been great to work with Untours. If I may, what I'll do is I'm going to switch my screen over so you can see some nice pictures for me to talk about, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. So forgive the technology, but I'll just do my best just now. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share it to here. I'm going to share. And I hit play. Okay. What I'll do, can you hear me okay, by the way? Is this, my audio is okay?
Yes.
Good, we got that. Great. Okay, so welcome to Burgundy. It's a shop in Burgundy. And what I might first of all talk about is the region. The Savoir Vivre is a luxury barge hotel, which I'll tell you all about in a bit. First of all, it's mainly what I'd like to cover is where we are. We operate in Burgundy, which is a region of France near Dijon, and things that are wonderful about the area are multifold, which is why within this world of luxury barge cruising, Burgundy has consistently over the last 30 years been the most popular region to visit. It starts even with something as simple as its location. It's a 1 hour, 40-minute ride on the 200-mile-an-hour TGV rides from Paris. So getting to us is simplicity itself. It has, as you can see here, some natural beauty. The geography of the place is wonderful. Like much of France, and specifically Burgundy, has a very interesting and cultured history. We have architecture, we have chateaus and villages and markets, and it's a wonderful region aesthetically. Also, it has this lovely combination of also being a God-given location for making wine. It has where it is in the world, and the nature of its soil and its hillsides make it perfect for wine, which is why Burgundian wine has become so famous over the years. And then combined with that, it has this thing called the Burgundy Canal going straight through it, which itself is one of the most beautiful stretches of canal in France. So the area in itself has been where barging was born, more or less, and is now, if you're going to do, I always say to anybody I'm a fan of barge cruising. My friends call me the barge bore, because I can bore anyone to talk about this industry. But what I would suggest is that if you're going to go barge cruising once, it's not a bad place to start. The specific thing about inland waterway cruising, I think I'll just cover that a little bit, is that there's lots of ways of cruising inland. Well, two specific ways. One is on rivers and the other is on canals. Now, many people have heard of the river cruises. A very famous and well-established operator called Viking Cruises, where these are 100+ passenger vessels that cruise along the rivers of Europe. Within barge cruising, our typical numbers aboard is about 8. Sometimes there's 4 passenger barges, 6 passenger barges, 8 passenger barges, 12 passenger barges. But that's the sort of numbers you're talking about by cruising on the canals. And specifically, that's because on the canals are stagnant water, which are the old shipping lanes of Europe, and they go up and down hills via lock systems. And the restriction within those is never mind how big the canal is; it's how big the lock is. So what's necessity of this industry is that you need to build boats that fit into these locks, which means by its very fabric, canal cruising is a relatively low passenger per vessel number. So more on intimacy. Often we do 2 types of cruises, either a private charter where everyone comes aboard, or we have these things called hotel weeks where people just rent a cabin. But you're joining a boat with 6 others rather than 106 others. So it's small boat cruising. Here's some nice pictures of the area. This is the Abbey de la Boussière. Every lock that you go through in France, as we go in, right in front of us is a lock which raises and lowers the boat, and every lock has a lockkeeper's a cabin. Now, within luxury barge cruising, here's one of the boats. This is our boat, actually, but it's been going. The industry is about 35 years old now, and traditionally, what happens there's of the probably 100 or so barges that are in this industry, they typically are 38-meter vessels over 2 floors, and other sizes, of course, as well, with a full crew complement. And we cruise these canals. So a typical day would be, we'd wake up in the morning and we'll be cruising along the canals, making way along the Ouche Valley. And in Burgundy, we operate in this, the canal follows the Ouche Valley. And we'll start the day, you might be underway in the morning, and we have breakfast aboard. And then on the Savoir, on all barges, we have lunch aboard. And then in traditional barging, what you'd have is a private chef who actually lives on the boat with you. And you also have dinner that evening. Between those 2 periods of time, we go on a nice tour in the afternoon, maybe to visit a chateau, taste wine, visit a market in Dijon, or in a part of our program. And on the evening, what will happen is that you'll come back on the boat and enjoy dinner on the boat from the services of a private chef. And this is where the Savoir Vivre differs from the other barge cruises. In that, I'm certainly not one to complain about the idea of having a private chef make me food all week. One thing that we realized is that, the things that are wonderful in France are the culture, the scenery, the wine, and certainly gastronomy is a big part of visiting France. And the certain reality of it is when you have the service of a private chef, is that you'll go to France and you'll eat from the hands of the same chef all week. And aboard the Savoir Vivre, what we've done is actually built the vessel you see here, which we'll show you inside in a minute. And we made our ship slightly smaller than other barge hotels. And in so doing, we've been able to increase the program with a very structural change, in which on the Savoir Vivre, what we do is we have lunch aboard, which is delivered to the boat by a private chef who follows the boat along, and each day he delivers our lunch service. But in the evening, instead, we visit authentic local restaurants. This means that really the Savoir Vivre is slightly more, we like to think of more authentic and dare I say, a sustainable way of cruising, because rather than eating from the hands of the same chef every week, our guests enjoy a chef from the hands of 6 different chefs in authentic local restaurants. Private dining on a boat's wonderful. So is the restaurants of France, and being able to dine in French restaurants with French people is something that we hold very dear to our to the Savoir Vivre way. Over the past 10 years, we've been cruising along this range of the Burgundy Canal, and we've developed an itinerary, and we have a network of restaurants that we support. And we're a popular boat for that, because what some of the things that I think our guests appreciate are the idea of going to France and dining and getting off the ship and exploring these restaurants. there's a certain sensation of contribution when you visit these restaurants, and you're supporting the local economy. And bear in mind that France is a Western country, and Paris is a very wealthy city, and Burgundy itself is quite a wealthy nation. But if you go into the rural countryside, these are very honest, hardworking, independent businesses, really whose product is a product of passion. And one thing our guests really appreciate is being able to support these restaurants and enjoy the proprietors' passions. So exactly what happens on the Savoir Vivre is we have 2 excursions every day, rather than one. One is a tour to go taste some nice wine, and then we come back on the boat, and in the evening we'll go visit a local restaurant. I'll show you a bit about the boat. Is everything okay so far? Good, thank you. Okay, great. Well, I'll show you a bit about here's the Savoir Vivre. The Savoir Vivre is a 24-meter vessel. We have 8 guests in 4 cabins, and it's a boat on the outside, but inside it's like a really rather nice hotel. And we have a salon and dining area, foredeck. We also have a rear deck, and in our four cabins, here's an example. Forgive the photography, I didn't have a wide enough angle lens for these photographs. But we have 4 cabins, and they're each identical, and each are twin and queen convertible. We can either have a queen format, or we can split the bed and have a 2-bed format. And each has private facilities, including a shower, toilet, and sink in your own washroom. Space is always a challenge on a boat, but what we've done is add all amenities that you might expect from a nice hotel within your cabins. This includes things like digitally controlled air conditioning, orthopedic mattresses. The beds are electric, so you can sit up in bed and have coffee in the morning, heated towel rails, plenty of hot water, robes, slippers, hair dryers, and all the amenities you might expect from a luxury hotel, but delivered to you on the Savoir Vivre boat. Here's the facilities you have here. And here's an example of our lunch service that we have aboard. In terms of our restaurants, this, for example, is a typical auberge. This is one of the creperies we visit. It's in a lovely town called Châteauneuf-en-Auxois. The point I'm making this slide for is we curated a series of restaurants which cater for a variety. I mean, traditional heavy French food can be a bit much all week. So what we tried to do, we created a program where we vary the type of cuisine we have all week, from the very, very opulent to the very, very simple. Well, very okay, simple, but always exquisite quality. This is the Laurie Dubois, which is a traditional creperie, but not just with Nutella, but with the interesting fillings and all different types. It's a theme of a restaurant. All the way through to maybe the other extreme might be places like the Abbey de la Boussière or the Le Spuler, which are these really rather fine restaurants, which we visit along our route. The point about it, I think, would be is.
Excuse me, James, just
yes,
one moment. Do you see anybody who has not yet been able to enter this
Allow me to share my screen. I'll go over and check. Okay.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. I just realized that there could be some other folks who are waiting in the waiting room.
Yes, there's some more. Yep, here we go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Would you like to reintroduce, Brian, to just bring us up to speed?
Well, yeah, sure. Well, I'm Brian from Untours. We've got James Waggett here from the Savoir Vivre, the owner, and we've got Dodge Amaral, who is our France director. Welcome to everybody who is coming in. Sorry about the delay. We just neglected to let in the latecomers. Sorry about that.
I think in truth, that's my mistake. I'm the host of this meeting. I'm not so au fait with Zoom as I could be. So my apologies as well. Okay, allow me to go, if you like, for the folks who's joining us, what I will do is actually share my screen and just show you a couple of slides of what we've covered so far, and then I'll be able to carry on just in a moment or two. So far, folks, I've been talking about the region of Burgundy. I've been talking about some of the beautiful sites you have in Burgundy, including winemaking, chateau, lockkeepers' cottages, this beautiful canal, the Burgundy Canal, and these boats that cruise along it, of which I own one of them. I was just explaining that my boat is a vessel that takes 8 people in 4 cabins on a very inclusive format. Once you come aboard, you don't have to spend anything at all. We have fine wines aboard the boat, and we enjoy breakfast whilst cruising on these canals. A private chef delivers our lunch service, and then in the afternoon we'll typically go on a tour and go taste wine, visit a chateau, a local market. Even a goat's cheese farm we go to, who also a family-owned goat's cheese farm that make their own wine. So we have this tour program that takes place. And the vital difference I was explaining is that we are a proud member of a community of barges, and we are all friends, and we all know each other. Is in traditional barge cruising, they typically have a private chef which joins you for your week, and he'll make your dinner. He makes all your meals. I was just explaining that the vital difference of the Savoir Vivre is that rather than eating aboard all week, which is the traditional way within barge cruising, instead of the Savoir Vivre, we have lunch aboard by way of a private chef who delivers our lunch service. And in the evening, we visit authentic local restaurants. So in effect, what happens is when you come aboard our boat, a big part of French living, having a wonderful time in France is its gastronomy. And by coming on the Savoir Vivre, we've elected to visit and be patrons to local independent restaurants that we visit throughout the week. So in effect, you eat from the hands of 6 different chefs when you're on one of our cruises, as opposed to one. And that's our proud difference, is that we don't have an onboard chef, but instead we have this more enriched experience, which is why we like working with untours, because our own little difference in the barge cruising industry is I find rather similar to untours' vital little difference in the vacation agency business of trying to offer the untours way, which is why I feel it's worked so well working with untours. So here's my boat. I was just going into the inside before you guys joined. Hello. Here's the inside of the boat. It's it looks like a boat on the outside, but in the inside we're really rather hotel-like. And I was just covering before you joined. I was talking about the rooms. We have 4 cabins, all to hotel standard, including digitally controlled air conditioning, orthopedic mattresses. All the rooms are twin and queen convertible. They're all identical and each have their private facilities. Returning to the food, it is a vital difference within the Savoir Vivre, but it's also not the only difference. We actually on the Savoir Vivre have a much more informal format in terms of, we call ourselves a premium casual cruising, in which our guests really our crew become friends. They're there to help you. It's your boat. We don't have formal uniforms, for example. We allow people to express themselves and be their own self. And so we don't have much of a power distance on our boat. We have our crew, which I'll introduce you to in a moment. But really, people who come aboard the Savoir Vivre, they come as guests and they leave as friends. And that's the sort of style that we've had over the years. And it's meant that I'm really proud to say that those who have been aboard the Savoir Vivre over the years have typically become screaming fans of what we're about, because they really make friends when they're aboard our boat. And indeed, so does the local community. The local community in Burgundy, the Savoir Vivre has gained a reputation in terms of being a boat that is doing its bit to contribute to the local economy, and we're doing our bits, and we're a liked vessel, both among the people who live along the canals and the local community and our guests. So we're sort of a small revolution within this wonderful industry. I was just showing you the participants some of the pictures that we have. Here's one of the restaurants we join, and here's another one, which is the Abbé de la Boussière, which is in a beautiful old monastery along the Burgundy Canal. And the main thing I'd like to say is what's really wonderful about this business is I can talk about the region, I can talk about wonderful Burgundy wines, I can talk about beautiful chateaus and all the other things that come with it. But the vital difference is the people. And really the characters you meet when you're on our cruises. This, for example, is a chef of one of the restaurants we joined. He worked at the Guy Savoy in his training. It's his passion project. and he's been running his restaurant for 15 years, roughly, of which we've been supporting him for 10. The people you meet and the level of authenticity and sense of sustainability and contribution we make to the local community, we believe are the bits that turn it from cruising with a Savoir Vivre, from a sort of a luxurious experience into a life connecting experience, where we like to feel the guests come aboard, and when they leave on some sort of level, they're reconnected with life. And often that's that little small charming ways that you meet the people you meet and the places you go, and the style with which you visit us. Interestingly, the Savoir Vivre is a lovely French term, you know, the knowledge of life, and it's a lovely term, as the French language has. You know, like German, it's just Savoir Vivre, but 2 words, but it encompasses a whole range of values about what it is to live with Savoir Vivre. And the best way you could put it is with polite and stylish good manners. And I think that really is a kind of it runs through the entire program. And that's really what we've focused on over the years. And by sticking to what we're about, we've really earned our right in this lovely industry that we're a part of. As the latecomers may have not known, Dodge we were happy to host Dodge on the boat so that he could come and experience it himself. Dodge, does the way I'm describing this kind of ring true with you?
Very much so. You can very much say it's leisurely and interesting in terms of the company that you find. I honestly connected well with a few of the folks on board, including clients who've been with us to Tuscany before. But I exchanged pictures. In fact, for one a particular guy who took some pictures of me, I gave him a bottle of Armagnac, or sent him a bottle of Armagnac, because he apparently liked it. And I figured, well, might as well, we become friends at this point. And actually, he's coming to New York City in February, so I hope to maybe potentially visit. And I've texted back and forth with Richard, the captain, who's also a wonderful guy. And I've exchanged emails with Simon, who is one of our guides. Just a pleasant, leisurely experience, great food, excursions, but not too heavy. Somebody had asked a question in the chat about whether there's a lot of walking, and honestly, it's very slow pace. Nobody is breathing heavy at any point, so to speak. But just incredible fun, incredible food, a little of everything, including a lot of leisure. So it's very relaxing, to be honest. First time in a while I've taken something I would almost consider to be a vacation.
I love it. In that respect, maybe I could, if I have time, just to add a couple of things there. You know, the idea of your energy levels and your accessibility. One thing to forgive me, I'm going to admit somebody else. Is, as you'll see, the barge right now is in the lock, and we've just come up the lock here, and we're making our way along the Ush Valley. At any moment you wish to on this boat, if you wish to walk off to go for a walk or a bike ride, we have bikes aboard. You're not stuck on the boat in barge cruising. You're always at leisure to get off, and what you do is you walk forward. And because we're every couple of kilometers we'll find a lock, you can always walk forward either on foot or take a bike ride and enjoy the canal paths, because they're always flat because we're on canals. And you can enjoy the canals and rejoin the boat when it picks at the next lock. So you're always at leisure. The expression is you can always be lazy or go crazy when you're on a barge cruise. And it really suits people of mixed abilities or mixed ages. So we work very well with families, because if young people want to get off and work off some energy or go explore a little village whilst we're cruising along, they can do so. If somebody doesn't wish to get off the boat, then it's a very place to be. So we can cater to everyone. It's a very good point.
The one thing I can say that the French have an expression of being à table, being at the table eating, and I have to say that is a good chunk of your cruising, which also gives ample time for conversation, often some deep ones, some interesting anecdotes, but you definitely à table quite a bit. So you might have to have a little bit of a diet before or after the cruise, depending on how you work.
Yeah, there's an expression in barge cruising. The barges, because of the canal water, you see, what happens is that it shrinks over the course of the week, it shrinks your clothes a little bit. The other thing I would say is, just to come on to, I want to, if I may, just to have just 1 or 2 more minutes, I'd like to introduce you to a couple of special people. Just tell me to do a little bit of hosting here. Give me one moment, folks. There we go. The chap on the left is your captain. You know, whilst I've been responsible for the Savoir Vivre from its inception, its construction, and its delivery for the last 10 years, the one man who's made it possible is the chap on the left. He's called Richard. And this is Richard Maigret. He's the captain of the Savoir Vivre. And he really, for practical purposes, when we're delivering our cruises, it's his boat. He was actually, his parents were involved in the very first Barge hotel. He has worked on extensively for the last, well, now 30 years within this industry, looking after affluent cultured tourism in France. He is a how would I see if Dodge agree with me? He is a host, he is a captain, he is a comedian, and he's a charming man. And he is the real fabric of the Savoir Vivre, is something that he's really embraced. He could work on any ship, but he chooses to work with us because he really likes the way we are. And our format of cruising is something that he identifies with. And he's more important to this business than the boat, I feel. So understand, in terms of the quality and the feedback we've got over the years, the boat has done its bit, but it's Richard that's made it happen. Hand in hand with him is a lady here called Laura, and there's a small story here, who's also a professional tour guide, and she's invested her entire life in the tourism and the hospitality industry within France. Initially, fresh out of university, she was running luxury chalets in the mountains, and in the summertime, she'd come down and do hosting on barge hotels. She has since invested fully in the industry and has been our guide for the last 9 years, 10 years. The point about it is that Laura is also married to a chap called Simon, who's also a master of wine, and he knows, and he's also a professional career tour guide. And unusually this year is that Simon, her husband, has become our tour guide. And you know, I cannot put a piece of paper between them in terms of their skills and abilities. And the point about it is that these are real veteran guides, and really you'd be hard pressed to find people who have a better and more enthusiastic and endless thirst for sharing everything that's wonderful about Burgundy, the region, and the wine and its history. They're both consummate professionals. So much so, dare I say, you know, the Savoir Vivre Barge Hotel, whilst our current rate is $34,000 a week for 8 guests, there are plenty of $60,000 and $70,000 a week boats out there. Both of them could easily get a job on those vessels. But the point is, they've chosen to join us, and vitally, the reason they've chosen to join us is because A, they love Richard and the Savoir Vivre way, and also it's because they're bringing up a family. And I'm kind of proud over the last 10 years to watch their kids grow up. And the vital difference, because of the Savoir Vivre way, is that they can come aboard and look after our guests and take them on tours, and they can go home to look after their family, which means that they don't have to sleep on the boat, which would they otherwise have to do if they're on one of the ultra deluxe barges. So it means that we're able to really somehow, to a certain degree, punch above our weight with the kind of skills and talents, the people we've been able to attract to the business, and for our guests to enjoy the company of. You were looked after by Simon, Brian, is that right? Sorry, Dodge.
Yep. Yeah, it was Simon actually, and he's wonderful. Great guy, superbly knowledgeable, and let us kind of work at our own pace, so to speak. But just really wonderful guy in general. Sorry, I didn't get to meet his wife, but Simon worked out quite fine, and we've exchanged emails since.
Yeah, without wishing to, I'll end the presentation shortly, but this is the kind of, we are a family aboard my boat now. And it was actually, without wishing to delve into other people's private lives too much, you know, the circumstances that COVID was very tough to the tour, it was brutal to the tourism industry in France. And Simon was working for another operator, which had extreme difficulties during COVID. And as a family, they approached me and said, really, we would like to do it this way this year. It is without hesitation that I said yes. I mean, just as much as I entrust Richard to run a wonderful ship and look after my guests, I entrust Laura and Simon to look after my guests when it comes to tours. And it's really far be it from me to even have an opinion. I admire them so much, the standard of those tours that they give us so much. I'm frankly, to a certain degree, privileged that I've been able to support them in the way I have by having Simon run the tours and yeah, it just goes to show that kind of makes me feel, it helps me recognize and be proud of how far we've come and the standards we operate. I could go on, but what I would say is that what I'll put up is just put an itinerary up in a moment. But what I'd say though, we love working with Untours. I've never found a travel agent which matches our values like us. Traditionally, when we speak to other travel agents, we have to somehow sell or persuade that our way is a valid way. And when we met Untours, we have the same values from the beginning, which is why I think we've been so popular, because the people who like Untours tend to like us. And to that extent, I mean, I'm very proud of the Savoir Vivre, and I invite people aboard my boat, aboard my vessel without hesitation, because I know the standards we keep. So you can trust us, and from my perspective, you can certainly trust Untours, because they've been excellent for us, and I like to think that we've been good to Untours. So it's a partnership that I'm really happy to have, which I'm happy to do webinars like this to talk about barging. I think I've covered much of what I'd like to share, and I had a half-hour brief, and as typical for me, I've gone 5 minutes over. So unless there's any anything else from yourself, Dodge and Brian, I might ask if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, actually, James, did you say you had a map that you were going to be showing?
Well, I just thought I'd show the itinerary. This is
Oh, okay.
on the screen here. These are the sort of days, the kind of things we have. On the left, you can see is where our mooring is. These are all little villages and habitations along the Ouche Valley that we cruise along. And then just a couple of words to describe what we're doing. Be it wine tasting, visiting Dijon market, which is one of the only day actually we get up in the morning and go on the tour in the morning, because the market only runs till about midday. Visiting Beaune, it's a very famous and beautiful town with these wonderful old hospice. One of the earliest ever hospitals to be made, and the fascinating story by why they were funded by people's. And they're seeking heaven, and there was a way of contributing to the local community, and how the hospital system was somehow born through places like Beaune, to visiting Châteauneuf-Auxerrois, or interesting, one of our unusual tours, which is unique to this. Well, all of our tours are unique per se, but we visit a local goat cheese farm, which is a family-owned business. They own vines and they own goats, and we go around and we meet the family. And typically, it's I must say that's the one tour that people have a think about, and they're thinking, "What, are you going to make me meet goats?" And consistently, it is actually, frankly, our most highly rated tour, because it really you see a real aspect to traditional Burgundian life, and the people that live there, and the pride that they take. And they say, they look in your eyes and say, "Happy goats make better cheese," and you smile and nod, and then you try their cheese. And then you see that it goes into Michelin-starred restaurants, and it's true. So it's a really wonderful tour, and the idea that we give everyone a tour of Burgundy, of all that it has to offer. Sometimes people ask to make sure that we have enough wine. Please understand that you will have plenty of wine. We have a Burgundy specific wine program, which we have lots of wine in our cellar aboard the boat, and we have a very inclusive program. So we've never been outwined before.
Well, this has been great, James. If you want to end the screen share, we can see each other and maybe do some Q&A here. Some questions have been asked and answered on the chat. I think the latest one that maybe wasn't, there's a cost question that hasn't been answered. I can actually just post a link to to our website, where you can see all of the dates and prices and things. It depends on the date. So here's where you can see the dates and prices. We've got some folks who've been on the cruise already. Carol, welcome. That's great. And some folks who are going next year. That's also amazing. There's a question from let's see, the Brommel Six, about arranging for a pickup at a hotel. Do we do a hotel pickup, Dodge?
Unfortunately, no, unless it's the only folks arriving that day. Generally, everybody meets up at the entrance to the Dijon train station. If it's a charter where basically everybody on the boat is part of the same group, then I believe they can make accommodations in that respect.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, and that's done by design. We've tried when we have, okay, just to explain one more time, people who are late coming as well, is that we have two types of cruise. We do the same cruise in the same format, but we can either have what's known as a whole boat charter, where a group of 6 or 8 can hire the boat for the week, and then your company, you have a private charter. On those instances, we're happy to pick you up from any Dijon hotel. When it comes to these things, the other format we have is hotel weeks, which is where you order a cabin, or sometimes people have, 2 couples have 2 cabins, and you actually join what's known as a hotel week. And on a practical level, it is proven most practical and most pleasant for the guest experience for us to collect from Dijon station. And the reason being is, if you're the first pickup at a hotel week, you may be on the bus for a really uncomfortable period of time whilst we go to the other hotels to then go onto the cruise route. So we found that in terms of the guest experience, we asked guests to meet us at Dijon train station on 4:30, and then depending on which end of the cruise route we are, because we go point to point, so we go either up for a week, or we come back down again. Your transfer time will be either 20 minutes or 45 minutes. So it's, and the reason is actually, it's funny, the Burgundy Canal actually goes to the Ouche Valley. It's quite V-shaped. So it means we go out and then we come back, and there's an auto route that's actually handy to the Ouche Valley that we take. But it's by design that we do pick up at Dijon station. It's truly worked out to be better for everyone.
Okay, question from Nancy. Do you have electric in the cabins to accommodate a CPAP machine?
We do. And in terms of electrical stability, we have 2 gensets on board. It's Europe, so it's 240 volt system. Generally, chargers are 120. If you look on the back, they're actually European voltage compatible. Like, for example, my Apple charger, I can plug this straight into a US socket because it can handle between the range. That's worth checking. Aboard the boat, we have 2 generators, a main generator which powers the boat when we're underway, and a backup generator. And then each evening when we come alongside, we have shore power that we plug into. So we have a very assured source of power. And should any power not be available, we have backup sources of power.
Great. Is AC controlled in the room?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You can, fortunately, I was on this summer when it was quite warm, as Carol and Wade can also attest to, and it certainly was nice. If anything could be too cold, so you can luckily lower the temperature if that's your preference. Otherwise, if you really like it cold, you can make it so.
And they're individual air conditioning units which are digitally controlled in the room, so you can set it where you want it to be. Yeah.
Exactly.
In addition, some people prefer a warmer cabin, but they like fresh air. We also have fresh air fans in each room, which gives you a supply of fresh air.
Great. Well, we've had some questions on the chat. You can continue to put questions there. If anybody wants to ask a question out loud, I think it's probably okay. Just wave your hand and we can call on you, or just unmute yourself if you like to do it that way. Or if you have a comment, that would be fine.
I'm personally thrilled to hear that some of our previous guests who were with you, Dodge, are here. It's nice to meet you. I don't get to meet my guests, so it's actually a real privilege to be able to actually have an interaction. I'm like a ninja. I stay out of the way when we're delivering cruises, so it's actually kind of it's a fun novelty for me to be able to actually have interaction with guests after they've been aboard, other than through our guest books and the feedback we have from our agents like Untours.
So I could tell you, having been on board, it was absolutely fabulous. Everything about it. We booked a year ahead. I don't know why you can't see me and I can't see myself, but in any case, we booked a year ahead and we looked forward to it. Okay, I don't know how to start my video.
I was inviting you to, yeah.
That's okay.
Oh,
Yes,
there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, Carol. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Carol. Nice to meet you.
So what I want to say is that having anticipated this trip for a year, it turned out even better than we expected. I mean, it exceeded all our expectations. It's absolutely about the journey and not the destination. The people were wonderful. We didn't know anybody when we started, and we ended up friends. And the restaurants are fabulous. One of the big selling points for me is that we got off every night and went to a local restaurant. We're in France. Hello. I mean, you know, the reason we travel to various places is to have those kinds of authentic experiences. And Simon, our guide, was wonderful. Ava, who was our hostess on board, was delightful. And we exchanged, she helped me with my French, and I helped her with her English. That was lovely. And Richard is amazing, just absolutely the perfect, as you said, not only captain, but host and entertainer, and just amazing. So I can't say enough good things about it. We were on with several of your friends, James, who even more delightful, and we've been in touch with them since. So
happy.
I would say anybody who's thinking about it, do it.
Wow, thank you, Carol. And we didn't pay you to come on and say all that nice
No,
stuff.
you did not. No, no.
We will next time.
I'm happy to, you know, if people, before we did our tour, we asked Dodge if he could put us in touch with somebody who'd done it, just because we had a few questions we wanted to, you know, get clear about. And he found somebody who was willing to email with us. Well, so I'm willing to do that too, if anybody.
Oh, that's great.
And we did another Untour. We were in Tuscany in 2018 with Untours. And so we're big Untours fans. Absolutely.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. That's
You're
awesome.
welcome.
So we've got another couple of questions. Would binoculars be useful? And Carol, you can chime in on this, on these answers too, if you want.
We didn't bring binoculars. We did see some interesting birds along the way, but we, I don't know. I mean, it would do no harm, but I didn't have a particular need.
And we have a high quality pair of binoculars aboard. And if you like birds or wildlife, then there's lots of opportunities. I think particularly at the beginning and the end of the day, when all this activity happens, we have some aboard. It's a nice, sure, if you have some, absolutely bring them if you have the room. Otherwise, we have some pretty nice ones on board.
Great. There's a question about tips for 2 or 3 staff. I guess that's probably just a question about tipping.
Yeah, it truly is at everyone's discretion. And barge cruising norm, I think, is rather similar to cruising in general. It is completely at discretion, always gratefully received, never missed. It really is. That's the case. If people ask for a guide, if you are happy, typically what we might suggest is 5% of the value of the cruise. And then the way it works is that it's given in cash directly to the captain, and then they have a system by which everybody who's made your experience happening, including the weekend turnaround cleaning crew and the hostess and guide, and absolutely everyone involved in the organization, is their portion of the tips. But always gratefully received. You'll see it in their faces when you offer it, and if and to whatever amount, it's completely at discretion and never missed. It's always gratefully received.
Great. Okay, that's a question that comes up a lot on our end too. So
the best answer I've ever come up is 5%, and just give it to Richard, and he'll look after everybody.
Yep. Yep. We Americans, we like to have a firm number, so we're not having to guess.
Yeah. But with some famous stories, we've had one boat. It was actually Richard's brother, who's also, his entire family's involved in barge cruising. He had another boat, maybe I think 10 or 15 years ago. He was the captain of a boat, and in the off season, his other thing he used to do is do balloon flying, do hot air balloon flying. And Richard was also a balloon pilot. And he said, to these guests, he said, this is my last year with my balloon, because it's hours. It's running out of hours before I have to have it rebuilt, and it's money that I neither have. And I think I'm going to have to say goodbye to my balloon piloting career. And it was famously the biggest tip in barging, whereas this couple, it turned out they're very wealthy people and they're philanthropists. And their tip for a week on a cruise was a hot air balloon.
Wow.
It's a wonderful story. So they actually extended his career in balloon piloting because they're just very generous philanthropists, and they said, "We like you. We like what you're about. We're buying you a balloon."
That's great.
But that's not expected of the Savoir Vivre guests. 5% is fine. Thank you.
Great. All right. Any other questions? Chat or live, whatever you like. Well, if not, we're going to be sending out a recording of this as soon as we can. So you'll have a chance to review it, send it to your friends. There are right now, we put the link up earlier for our website, and you'll see that there are some weeks that are available as James said, as hotel weeks where you can book individual cabins, and other weeks are available for full charters. Just give us a call, and we can hold something for you if you're interested. As you know, it's a small boat. There's a limited number of weeks, so it's already going pretty quickly, and you'll see a lot of dates that are already crossed out for next year. But let us know, and we'll do our best to accommodate and help get you on. Any last comments, James, Dodge, Carol?
Just do it. Don't hold back.
Yeah.
You
Carol,
only
can I
live
ask you-
once.
I think
You
Carol,
only live once. Just do it.
thank you, Carol. And Carol, it's been a joy having you here. Lovely to meet you. And
Thank you. Yes, same here.
having you been aboard and hear how we're describing it, I like to think that we're pretty congruent. We keep our promises on the Savoir Vivre.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It exceeded all of my expectations, really. So,
Okay.
yes.
Well, that's exactly where we want to be. So thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for your advocacy.
Oh,
Really
my
genuinely
pleasure.
appreciate it from my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank
It was a
you.
pleasure meeting you, Carol, and Wade, of course.
All right.
Oh, God, of course. Yeah.
Great.
Met you on
Okay.
the boat.
Thank you for the opportunity, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
You can-
Okay.
Don't worry about
Bye.
the tours. They'll look after you. They're the great guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.